Sam Lowes is withdrawn through injury, promoting brother Alex onto the front row of the grid. That will also move Jonathan Ray onto the second row. Andrea Iannone matches his best Superpole since Phillip Island. Remy Gardner lines up in his best grid position of the season. Alvaro Bautista down in 7th, but crucially, his rival for 3rd in the world, Andrea Locatelli, starting 2 places behind him. 2 grid penalties applied for infractions in free practice 3 this morning. Bahatin Tofoglu drops from 18th to 24th for slow riding in front of Nicolo Bulliga. Tito Rabat's 3-place penalty for slow riding in front of Toprak Razgatlioglu puts him to the back. But crucially, no penalty for Toprak for his collision with Rabat, which was arguably the more dangerous incident.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there was cause for a penalty for Toprak. Ultimately, no issues for him, and he's able to get himself onto that front row of the grid with his qualifying effort. Half a second down on Bulliga, but still in contention. We know that Toprak's always going to make that step whenever we get into race conditions as well, but it's going to be tough for him up against Bulliga.
Toprak Razgatlioglu has 3 races here in Jerez to score the 23 points he needs to be crowned world champion, even if Nicolo Bulliga were to claim a final round hat-trick. But he hasn't had an unbeaten weekend, Bulliga, since Cremona. Toprak's won 17 of the last 21 races, and realistically, it should just be a matter of time before he claims his 3rd Riders' title. But the Manufacturers' Championship does look set to go down to the wire. BMW trail by 3 points.
Yeah, and that Manufacturers' Championship is also a big target for BMW. Ultimately, whoever wins 2 races here this weekend is going to win that Manufacturers' title. Ducati's your favourite for that.
Nicolo Bulliga then starting from pole position. He's won 3 of the last 5 races to complicate Toprak's route to the title today. Another victory this afternoon for Bulliga would push that title race, at least mathematically, to tomorrow. Realistically though, Steve, it's only 2 mechanical failures or crashes for Toprak that would deny him the title. Nonetheless, Bulliga's mechanical failure in free practice yesterday, a reminder that really nothing is out of the question in motorsport.
Ultimately, the stress that Toprak's been under this weekend is exactly what Bulliga needs to give him the belief that he can still win this championship. And you still have it where for Bulliga is in one of those situations where he just needs to go out and take care of his side of the business. He needs to go out and win all 3 races, put the pressure on Toprak, and then see where it all is at the end of tomorrow's races.
Nicolo Bulliga beat Toprak in race 1 here last season, and again in the Superpole race after what was a great duel between the pair. Bulliga world number 2 last year with 6 wins in the whole season, 2 of them of course in Toprak's absence, and 3 at the final 2 rounds of 2024, where he made a step up in performance that he's maintained through this season. Toprak Razgatlioglu then, the man on the verge of his 2nd consecutive title, and it has been another remarkable season for him and BMW. He looked a shadow of the rider that claimed the 2024 title when he scored just 20 points at the opening round in Phillip Island, only won in Assen because of mixed weather conditions in the Superpole race. He suffered 9 defeats in the first 4 rounds this season. Even in Most, one of his favourite circuits, he was beaten in race 2 and his title hopes were hanging by a thread, but now he need only hold his nerve.
Toprak exactly what he needs on the grid there, with Chan On-Chu up there to distract him and make him nice and relaxed. He doesn't need added pressure from anyone else from BMW up there. He just needs to be able to focus on the job at hand.
Alex Lowes promoted to 3rd on the grid, surpassed 350 starts last time out in Estoril. 50 podium finishes to his name, 4 on the Bimotor this season. Has been a remarkable first campaign for the KB998. Alex only out of the top 6 twice in the last 4 rounds, and now up to 6th in the championship, ahead of brother Sam in his absence for the remainder of this weekend.
Yeah, it's a shame for Sam to be out. Obviously qualified on the front row of the grid, so the speed is there once again this weekend, just like it was in Estoril when he had to withdraw before the Superpole session. But ultimately, no real choice for Sam other than to stand down for the weekend. And just had a quick chat with him after the session, and the one thing he said was that the team ultimately, they know the challenge, and everyone's able to make the right decision at a moment like this. It's such a shame for them to finish the season like this.
Yeah, particularly as it's been such a good one. But Sam Lowes withdrawn after that rib damage going into the Estoril round in a training accident, and unfortunately had to pull out partway through the weekend in Estoril as well. Pole position then for Nicolo Bulliga, and both he and Toprak Razgatlioglu have been remarkably consistent in Superpoles this season. Only once off the front row of the grid for Bulliga in 2025. Razgatlioglu with a run of consecutive front row starts, and it's Bulliga who got the upper hand in Superpole there, and he will be starting from pole position. Razgatlioglu though right alongside him, so no damage really done for Toprak.
No, for Toprak it's what he needs to do, which is just follow Bulliga, but ultimately that's the biggest challenge for Toprak, just to make sure you're able to come across the line and get the job done that he has to do. He wants to win every race.
Andrea Iannone in his final round after 2 years with Go 11 Ducati that have yielded 7 podiums, including a race win. Confirmation between rounds that Lorenzo Baldassarri will be the man to replace him in 2026, returning to the World SBK paddock after a year out in Moto E, where he currently sits 12 points behind the series leader with 1 Grand Prix remaining. Remy Gardner missed the 2024 Spanish round with a broken wrist, but he managed a 4th place in his last race here in 2023, and he again showed that pace this morning, his best grid position since Most last year, and on that occasion he walked away with 3 top 5 finishes. 20 points last time out in Estoril, his best weekend since his podium in Assen in April, so he looks set to end the season on a high. Jonathan Rea embarking on the final weekend of his World SBK career, his 202nd round, and this afternoon his 469th race. Tomorrow night will be the time to celebrate and look back on the accolades, but in the meanwhile, he's got 3 races to try and add at least 1 more. 9 podiums here in Jerez. He'll be going for the 10th here.
Yeah, the schedule's been ridiculous for Johnny over the course of the last few rounds. Everybody's been trying to grab their 5 minutes with him. It's only whenever the grid clears and he's able to focus on the job at hand that he's actually been left alone since he made his announcement. This weekend's a case in point for that. Everybody wants their piece of time with him, but now he gets the chance for these final 3 races to try and go out there and make his point.
As you can see, Dave Goddard's down on the grid. Over to you, Dave. Well, unfortunately, a few technical problems. Robot Dave from Friday has returned, so we will continue on through the grid and to the 3rd row. Alvaro Bautista, Xavi Vierque and Andrea Locatelli. It is Bautista versus Locatelli for 3rd in the championship. Now, Bautista's beaten Locatelli 21 times in 33 races, but he's also suffered 9 scoreless races, and that's what's leaving him under pressure in that battle for bronze. And remember, a series of incidents here in Jerez last year meant Bautista only scored 1 point in the 2024 Spanish round. Retirements are Bautista's main risk for bronze.
Yeah, exactly, and for Alvaro, he's got those 5 podiums in a row. He wants to make sure that he's able to just stay out of trouble this weekend, and he should be able to come away with 3rd in the championship.
Xavi Vierque moved 2nd in Honda's all-time appearance records after Sunday in Estoril, surpassing Jonathan Rea. 2 7th places and a 6th there, so a solid weekend, 22 points. He's going to need 28 more this weekend in order to surpass Sam Lowes for 7th in the championship. For Vierque, 5th place finishes in Portimao, Cremona and Balaton Park, his best results of 2025.
Yeah, and he's definitely been able to have some strong performances. He gets a lot out of that Honda, and that's where it's interesting to see what happens for him into next year when he moves on to the Yamaha and we see him on a little bit more of an established package where we can make comparisons with other riders.
This is Taz McKenzie starting P10, comfortably his best super pole of the season. His previous best, P14 last weekend in Estoril, although he only went on to score 2 points there. An 8th place finish in the super pole race at the Hungarian round, the only top 10 finish he's managed since moving on to the Bonovo Ducati.
Yeah, at least for Taz, good indication of him adapting to that Ducati and being able to get some decent performances. All about coming away with some points now in today's race.
Michael van der Mark is in his final weekend as a BMW factory rider, but their technical director Chris Gonshaw confirmed on Thursday that van der Mark will stay on as a test rider and reserve rider whilst moving to the Endurance World Championship full-time. Good compromise that for BMW, considering they'll have 2 new riders in their team next season. They keep their manufacturer's all-time appearance record holder, and that'll give them a clearer indication of the bike's progress in the years to come. Jari Montella has shown some promise in his first World SBK season. 8 top 10 finishes at 6 different tracks, including a best finish of 7th at Balaton Park. But he's also failed to score in 19 races, 12 retirements, and unfortunately that's what we'll remember most from 2025 for Montella. That rounds out your 4th row of the grid. Back over to Andrea Locatelli. He lines up in P9. Remember, 4th in the standings for Loca, having already finished in that spot in 2021 and 23. Regardless of the outcome this weekend, it has been a great season for him. Top Yamaha in 26 of the 33 races, and 30 points plus at 6 rounds, at which he's finished all 3 races in those rounds inside the top 5, including his first win over Alvaro Bautista head-to-head back in Assen.
Yeah, and it's been a season where he's made the step that he needed to make, which was to win a race. And for Locatelli, he's been as consistent as ever, as we've come to expect from him over his years in the Superbike class. He's in with a chance to finish 3rd in the world. It's going to be difficult for him. Bautista's got a little bit of an edge over him, but Locatelli doesn't tend to make big mistakes, and that has been the difference between them.
Could have just done with getting the edge in Superpole. 8th time in 12 rounds this season that Locatelli's been out-qualified by Bautista. So a couple of places behind him on the grid. It's going to be important for Locatelli to try and get track position as quickly as possible here, put himself in that podium scrap. Remember, he did make the rostrum in Jerez in race 1 of both the 2023 and 24 Spanish rounds.
Yeah, and a lot of the time it's just about trying to make sure that you're able to find that little bit of consistency out there to be able to bring yourself that bit further up the field once you're starting from those lower ends of the top 10.
Quick word on the Manufacturers' Championship for BMW. 580 points the score from Toprak Razgatlioglu, 2 from Michael van der Mark on Toprak scoreless Sunday in Phillip Island. Meanwhile, for Ducati, 4 non-scores for Nicolo Bulliger, but they've been covered well by Bautista, Sam Lowes, Petrucci. Of course, Petrucci out of action at this end of season back-to-back. So Bautista versus Locatelli for Lining up in the absence of Sam Lowes. It's all about the championship battle that goes down to the wire, the final round of this 2025 season between these two men. Toprak Razgatlioglu lining up in second position, leads the way in the championship by 39 points over Nicolo Bulliger, who starts from pole. Toprak Razgatlioglu trailed Nicolo Bulliger by 42 points after February's opener in Phillip Island. He was still 31 points behind after round 5 in Most in May. But the most remarkable of mid-season turnarounds, with 13 consecutive race victories, has given him full control of the title race. Now 39 points to the good. With only 37 points available tomorrow, Bulliger must pull back at least 3 this afternoon to keep the title race alive. The easiest way to do that, of course, is to win, which would guarantee he recovers a minimum of 5. And Bulliger has been victorious in 3 of the last 6 races, but Toprak Razgatlioglu is now just 1 win away from the 2025 World Championship. Alex Raby and Steve English for race 1 of the 2025 Spanish round here in Jerez, where Nicolo Bulliger won the first 2 races over Toprak last year. A Toprak victory to seal this crown might be his target, but it will be no mean feat. It's
going to be a difficult task for Toprak. It does look like he's out there with the harder front tyre, as is Bulliger. Jonathan Ray in the second row as well out there with it. Everyone's a little bit on the limit for the front tyre. That means that as this race progresses, it's about maintaining your speed, maintaining your consistency. If you're able to lap in the 38s at the start of the race, chances are you're probably not going to be at the end of the race. And for a lot of riders, it's about trying to find that balancing point, particularly in that second group. For Toprak, for Bulliger, they do have an edge over everyone else, but ultimately Bulliger has the performance and he's got the consistency. It's going to be very difficult for Razgatlioglu to beat him.
11 previous winners here in Jerez, and 5 of them lining up in today's field. Alvaro Bautista, the circuit record holder with 5 wins, 2 in 2019 before his famous Race 2 crash, and unbeaten for a hat-trick in 2023. Jonathan Ray did the double at the 2017 Pirelli Spanish round, also took a win here in 2020. Toprak Razgatlioglu took over at the top in 2021 and added 1 more win last year. Nicolo Bulliger, as we've said, taking the other 2. Michael van der Mark, the other previous Jerez winner, that dates back to 2019, but honours shared between Razgatlioglu and Bulliger here last season, and we do arrive in very similar shape in 2025.
Yeah, exactly, and for Toprak, it's all about trying to give yourself that opportunity to remember what it was like last year, and coming into the final round, it's not about making sure that you get it done today, it's about making sure you get it done by the end of tomorrow. And that has to be the target. The fight for 3rd in the championship is a little bit like that as well. Bautista needs to make sure that he avoids mistakes. For Locatelli, he needs to try and force a mistake from his rival for 3rd.
Simple mathematics if these two finish 1 and 2, as they have done for much of the season. 29 podiums each in 33 races. And both Nicolo Bulliger and Toprak Razgatlioglu already have outscored their 2024 finishing totals. Bulliger on 541 points, Razgatlioglu on 580. 1 win away now from the 2025 World Championship. 23 points. He could do it with 3 6th places. He wants to go out with a bang and seal the deal in the penultimate day of the season. It's a title decider, race 1 of the Pirelli Spanish round in 2025. Pretty even break from the 3 riders on the front row of the grid. Alex Lowes with an opportunity to get amongst it. Looks like he decided that the championship rivals should go head-to-head, and it's Razgatlioglu who hits the front on the inside line as they make their way through turn 2. Bulliger going all the way around the outside. It'll give him the inside now for the left-hander. Razgatlioglu robust in his defence. Now Alex Lowes right on the tail of Nicolo Bulliger. Also having to think about defence. Andrea Iannone making a decent enough start from the second row of the grid, and he now makes his progress as they sweep their way through the Cito Pons corner. Nicolo Bulliger pushing Toprak Razgatlioglu out of the way. Andrea Iannone comes through. Alex Lowes with an opportunity as well. Down the hill now, in towards turn 6, the Pedrosa hairpin. Razgatlioglu re-establishes himself in second place, but he's gone long, very, very long. Andrea Iannone comes through. Alex Lowes comes through. Nicolo Bulliger breaking away at the head of the field, and Toprak's Razgatlioglu Gatlioglu's hopes of a race victory here on Saturday in Jerez may be going up in smoke already.
Yeah, and it was very similar to what we saw last year. Buliga so strong through turn 4 to set the move up into 5, and then that kind of sets off that chain reaction for Toprak.
Gatlioglu looked desperate for track position on the opening lap, and he hasn't got it. Buliga's already broken a second away from this scrap for second position. Gatlioglu wasn't happy with Ionone's attack in Estoril last time out. He's going to be even less happy about this situation as he sees the Ducati, the number 11, set sail at the head of the field. He's now got to leapfrog the top independent Andrea Iannone, but we know how good Iannone is in defence.
Look at Xavi Vierge again, though, making progress on the Honda up inside the top 5 ahead of Remy Gardner. Really good opening lap from the 97.
On to lap 2 then. Let's see what the gap is across the line. It's 1.3 seconds already for Nicolo Buliga at the head of the field. Gatlioglu needs to clear Iannone quickly and start to apply some pressure. But Andrea Iannone running a really good race here in the podium positions early on.
Toprak needs to clear Iannone and just have a comfortable race through to the rest of this one, because he doesn't have the pace of Buliga.
Well, there is a real opportunity for at least one rider to get up onto the podium. If it's going to be alongside Buliga and Gatlioglu, Toprak was certainly making a lunge there in towards the Cito Pons corner for second position. This is what happened first time around in towards turn 6. They're making their way down the back straight now. Nicolo Buliga clear up front. Andrea Iannone still holding on to second position. Heavy braking zone in towards turn 6. Toprak Gatlioglu loves this corner. He will make the pass on Iannone, and this time he does get it stopped for second place.
You can see the big endo on the run into turn 1 on lap 1 when that rear wheel comes back into contact. That's what pushed Toprak wide, similar to what happened to Mazzano on lap 1 as well.
Quick word on the Yamahas in the background of the shot there. Andrea Locatelli has got through on Jonathan Rea and Remy Gardner, so Rea down to 8th position. Important for Andrea Locatelli, puts a couple of bikes between himself and rival for 3rd in the World Championship, Alvaro Bautista.
Yeah, that's exactly what he needs to do at this stage, and Locke, we've seen it time and again just how strong and consistent he is, and he needs to give himself the chance now just to open up a little bit of a gap over Bautista.
Chance to break away isn't there, because Gardner and Rea are not going to be easy to clear for Alvaro Bautista, particularly in the early laps, which is when he tends to struggle. And if Locatelli can then join the back of this group, there's a chance of a podium for him here.
Podium in the offing here for Honda with Xavi Vierge as well, because Vierge does get stronger as races go on. The Honda manages its tyre quite well, and he's got that top speed that should allow him to try and challenge, especially the likes of Alex Lowes. Then it comes down to if Iannone is able to maintain his pace throughout. Toprak's broken away from them, so it is a case of trying to hold your pace, try and keep Toprak honest, but ultimately it is the fight for the 3rd spot.
Xavi Vierge did have podium pace in race 1 in Estoril, but could never unleash it because he never had track position, and it's important therefore that he can make his passes a little bit more efficiently this time. Who's that's gone off in the background? It's one of the Yamahas.
I think it was Jonathan Rea. It looked like a red tip to his helmet there. And that's up in towards turn 4, and that's a fast place to come off to 170 k's through the apex. You enter the corner around about 220.
Yes, the 2 remaining Yamahas going side by side there, Andrea Locatelli and Remy Gardner, as they make their way through turn 6 on lap number 3. That has somewhat fragmented the field now. Buliga up front by 2 seconds ahead of Toprak Gatlioglu.
Looking outside the back of our commentary box, Johnny up on his feet as well, walking away from that one. That's a fast place to come off, so it's good to see these upright.
Full commitment right through his final weekend in World SBK, still giving it everything. Jonathan Rea out of race 1. 2 more opportunities for a big result. Hopefully he's still fully fit to go racing again tomorrow. Buliga then clear at the head of the field. Gatlioglu clear in second place. This is now a fight for 3rd. Alex Lowes putting pressure on Andrea Iannone and beginning to drop Xavi Vierge as well. Bit of a head-to-head developing for 3rd place.
Yeah, we've been able to see how strong and consistent Lowes has been second half this year in the Bermuda. They've done a great job with that project to really bring that bike along. And on this lap, Lowes has been able to pull out a few tenths over Xavi Vierge, close up onto Iannone. But once you come onto that straight, he's vulnerable.
Gardner back in front of Locatelli, which means there's now just 0.7 of a second between Locke and Bautista. Obviously, Bautista gains a place after Jonathan Rea's crash. So Alvaro Bautista up into 8th position, 0.7 back now from Locatelli, and no bikes between the 2 of them in their battle for 3rd overall.
Yeah, and for Bautista, that margin round about 3/4 of a second. We'll see how that fares over the next few laps. We know that in the second half of the race, Bautista is going to get stronger and stronger.
Race finally beginning to settle down on lap number 4. New personal best first sector from Toprak Gatlioglu. He's going to push in the first third of this race, see if he can bridge that gap. We did see the margins oscillate even when there were no changes of position up front last time out in Estoril. One will have a good phase of the race, another will come back, and we'll see whether that does change. But at the moment, that's just a watching brief. The main action here is for third position. Ionone's 3 seconds or more down on the leader at this stage, but with Alex Lowe's queuing up behind him, with Xavi Vierque within 0.4 of a second of him as well. The gap then 1 second to Remy Gardner and Andrea Locatelli, scrapping with Alvaro Bautista over 6th place.
We saw in Estoril afterwards, Lowe's was pretty clear about his thoughts. He was faster than the Ducati Bautista for much of the lap, but it also wasn't enough to be able to comfortably make a move and then leave it where you could open a gap before you came to the long start-finish straight in Estoril. Here's a very different challenge. Here's a place where you can get in front and try and break away.
Opportunity perhaps into the final turn, for example, for Alex Lowe's. We do see riders make bold block passes through there. It might not be one of the conventional overtaking hotspots in Jerez for Alex Lowe's, but here at this circuit in particular, the top speed deficit down the straight and in towards turn 6 is not what it has been at other venues. Turn
6 isn't the problem, it's the exit from the last corner as you get on the power. That's where you need your horsepower. The run through turn 5 gives Lowe's a chance to attack.
So it's Iannone, Lowe's and Vierque, 3rd, 4th and 5th positions. That gap coming down slightly now to Remy Gardner behind, 0.7 of a second back to 6th place. Locatelli right on his tail, and Alvaro Bautista with a new personal best lap last time around was faster than the 2 Yamahas ahead of him. And this is the danger zone now where Alvaro Bautista can start to build up his pace.
Alvaro was the fastest man on the track last time around. Bulega out in front with a 39.0 and Alvaro with a 30 Alvaro.
Aside from the top 2, of course, but who have broken well away.
For Bautista, at least getting himself into that level where he gets that comfort when the fuel load comes down.
Yes, Toprak Razgatlioglu, new personal best last time around to pull back 1/10 of a second on Nicolo Bulega. Bulega's opened that gap again here on lap number 5. 2 seconds then the gap to Andrea Iannone. Lowe's Vierque within 0.6 of a second of P3. Gardner losing a little bit of ground early on in this lap, and it's now that Locatelli needs to clear him.
Yeah, Locke needs to come through into turn 13 and just try and give himself the chance to close up onto the back of Xavi Vierque. Vierge's doing a good job to stick with Iannone and Lowe's, and Locatelli needs to make sure he's able to get himself closer to that battle.
But at the moment, that's all Vierque can do, and so he seems to be stuck in 5th position. Alex Lowe's looks racy enough to occasionally show himself down the inside, but not close enough to actually make a move. The gap's down, 1/10 of a second between them as they come onto the start-finish straight to begin lap number 6. They flash past our commentary position and into turn 1. Iannone still has track position behind them. Andrea Locatelli makes his move now on Remy Gardner. That's important for 6th position, but Gardner has already once been passed by Locatelli and found his way back through, and he's done it for a 2nd time. And the danger now for Locatelli is that a gap that was almost a second to Alvaro Bautista has been eroded to just 1/10 of a second to the closing Ducati behind.
Yeah, and for Alvaro last time around, a 39.7, another personal best for him. Locatelli, he's been boxed up a little bit now behind Gardner. He needs to come through and he needs to make the move stick.
And Iannone fading fast as well. 1:40.2 last time around. Lowe's, Vierque bottled up behind him. Where can Alex Lowe's find his way past? It's not going to be into turn 6 this time around. Andrea Iannone has got it stopped, but Lowe's visibly the faster of the 2.
Yeah, and ultimately a lot of time here it's coming down to just what that front tyre feels like. Locatelli able to make the move into 6, holds on to it through 7. But now is the moment where that softer front starts to drop off a little bit. That's why some of the riders at the front using the hard front and trying to give themselves a little bit more life through the race. But everyone's been on the limit for front tyre life this weekend.
Bautista 1:39.7 last time around. Again, new personal best first sector on this lap number 6. So Bautista's beginning to come into this race. A lot of bikes between himself and the podium though, and this is where it starts to get a little bit more difficult for Bautista. He'll want to clear Locatelli and Gardner as quickly as possible as Alex Lowe's sets himself up for an attack into the final turn. Iannone sweeps across his bows and covers the line. Lowe's will have the better exit, you'd assume, as Bautista now makes his move on Remy Gardner under heavy braking into turn 13 at the end of lap number 6. Bautista then through for 7th place.
You can see just how much distance Lowe's gives up on the acceleration out of the last corner up towards the start-finish line. So much faster through those fast right-handers at the end of the lap, but not able to make use of it.
Andrea Locatelli a little bit out of shape as he made his way through turn 2, and Bautista is now right with him. Locatelli would be set to pull back something in the World Championship if he were able to hold on ahead of Alvaro Bautista. There's a couple of point swing available for Bautista, but more importantly, for a rider who's on a run of 5 consecutive podiums podiums, there is a rostrum finish available here as well, and that would be a major chunk of points for Bautista's quest to take third position in the World Championship. He's got the run off turn 5, he's got the run towards Pedrosa hairpin, and now Alvaro Bautista has got 6th position, runs in a little bit deep, but Locatelli was halfway alongside, gets moved out of the way. Remy Gardner not quite close enough to capitalise. Bautista has leapfrogged both Yamahas. The gap now is 1.2 seconds to his next target, Xavi Vierque in 5th.
Yeah, he started this lap 1.8 seconds down on Andrea Iannone. He's going to be well underneath the 2.5 seconds to Iannone at the end of it.
Iannone is sluggish, but Lowe's can't find his way through. The areas of the track where Lowe's is quicker, there's no real passing opportunity. They are nose to tail as they make their way through the final sector on lap number 7. And will Alex Lowe's be close enough to make it through at Lorenzo Hep in the final corner on this lap? It's going to be a bold move if Alex Lowe's is going to pull it off. Time and time again, he feints to the inside, and time again, Iannone has it covered. Yeah,
Iannone able to get the bike stopped through there. It's ultimately whenever you're on that edge of the tyre, Iannone is struggling more than on that upright braking zone. But for Lowe's, we saw from the exit of the stadium complex at turn 10 just how close he was to Iannone, but even with that advantage, not able to make the move just yet.
New personal best final sector for Alvaro Bautista, matching Nicolo Bulliger at the head of the field. So Bautista fast closing, gap's already down actually. I said it was 1.2, it's now 9/10 of a second to Xavi Vierque ahead. And when Bautista gets these riders, you'd expect him to start breezing through on them. We saw how easy it was for him to make his way past down the back straight, and that's only a 600-metre run off turn 5 towards turn 6.
Yeah, and ultimately for Bautista, he had to make a pretty robust move on Locatelli. But that's the way you have to make your moves around here as well. You just have to get that track position and try and force the move on the other riders.
Well, we saw last time out in Estoril, we had a very clear top 9, and then everyone else was fighting for 10th. Obviously, we've lost Jonathan Ray out of that scrap, so effectively that battle for a place in the top 10 becomes a battle for 9th. But this is going really well for Taz McKenzie this weekend. Remember, failed to score here in Jerez last season, as Jonathan Ray makes his way back in, and he'll be glad to just tick this one off and start to think now about the Superpole race.
Yeah, and you can see the tail end of that crash for Ray, but such a fast place to come off, and just checking his chin there. We've seen Shannon Chu already this weekend with big bandage on his chin after a crash.
Andrea Iannone versus Alex Lowe's for 3rd position once again. Lowe's has got the run off turn 12, but Iannone deep enough on the brakes once again into turn 13. This will be getting frustrating now for Alex Lowe's.
It's Cremona all over again, with Iannone holding that track position but not having any of the speed of the riders around them. But all that matters is being able to hold on to the position and being in the podium spots.
Yes, that race 1 of the Italian round where Andrea Iannone defended as if his life were on the line and managed to come away with 4th position. If he defended hard there for 4th, I can only imagine what he's going to try and do for a rostrum finish here, because Andrea Iannone has not been anywhere near the podium, frankly, since the Australian round in Phillip Island in February. And what a way this would be for him to sign off if he can manage it in race 1.
And this is exactly what Iannone needs, because ultimately, with no decision made about next year, this could be the last that we see him in World Championship action. And he's doing everything he can to hold on to the podium.
Again, Alex Lowe's great exit through the blind corner, turn 5, Cito Pons and down the hill, but still Andrea Iannone has the position, slides his way in there to the Pedrosa hairpin, but again gets it stopped well enough. Meanwhile, the danger from behind is Alvaro Bautista, new personal best 1st sector, the gap now down to 0.5 seconds to Xavi Vierque in 5th.
Yeah, and Vierque is just maintaining his pace. He's in the low 1 minute 40s, and he's just keeping that watch and brief at all times.
Can Alex Lowe's dive somewhere through to try and force Iannone out of the way? Because if he doesn't do it soon, Alvaro Bautista will be with him, and then the chances of Lowe's getting on the podium are severely diminished.
This is where you can just see how much faster he is in this part of the track compared to Iannone, but he's got nowhere to go with it, and needs to have a really strong run through here. Iannone had a little bit of a bobble there through the penultimate corner.
Alex Lowe's had 3 podiums in Magny-Cours. He was also a podium finisher in the Superpole race at the Emilia-Romagna round in Misano. He's been consistently running in the top 6 spots, but a rostrum would be sweet at this final round in the first year of this new project for Bimotor. Iannone stretches his advantage down the start-finish straight, and now this is a group of 4. Iannone 2/10 clear of Lowe's, a 10th back is Vierque, 3/10 back, and closing fast is Alvaro Bautista from 6th position.
Yeah, Bautista still in the 39s, the only rider other than our top 2 running 39s, and that's why he's been able to close up so quickly. Down into turn 6 is where Lowe's is going to be under attack, you'd imagine, from Xavi Vierge.
Whatever you want to say about Alvaro Bautista's poor Superpole performances, they do give us great entertainment in World SBK as they once again come off at turn 5, drop down the hill. Does Vierge have the run on Alex Lowe's? Does Alvaro Bautista have enough speed to get himself into the mix? It's certainly a pack of 4, and the fastest of them are at the back of this group at the moment. Xavi Vierge in 5th position and Alvaro Bautista in 6th.
Yeah, and you can see for Alvaro just making sure that he hits all of his markers at this stage, trying to weigh up when he's able to come through. Ultimately, you've got 10.5 laps to make your moves on these riders around you. You're not going to be able to chase down Toprak. You're not going to be able to chase down Budiga. So for Bautista, he just needs to make sure he's able to make his moves when the opportunity presents.
And to do so cleanly, to not have an incident. And that's where he's had to learn something new, really, in these final 3 rounds. Closing and battling with Andrea Locatelli, he's much faster than him. But on points, Locatelli is the more consistent. Locatelli is the one who brings the results home. Bautista's got 3 riders to pass here to get on the podium, but he's already doing the job as far as the championship is concerned. He's ahead of Locatelli by 1.3 seconds.
Yeah, and this is where you suddenly start to see what matters most to Alvaro, because once you're into the race, you want that podium finish.
Yeah, absolutely. Lap 11 of 20. Quick check on the leaders, 3.7 seconds the gap, 5.4 back to Andrea Iannone, with Alex Lowe's, Xavi Vierge, Alvaro Bautista, all also very much podium contenders. And at this stage, you'd bet would have to be on Bautista, but still plenty of laps for him to make those moves.
I think on the basis of what we saw at Cremona, I'm still thinking Iannone's got a chance, because he is so good at defending his position and maintaining that track position. You can see there, he's on those tighter lines, but he's still able to hold off the riders behind him. He knows the important places around Jerez where you have to place your bike in the right spot to be able to hold on to the position.
In a way, Vierge being the rider for Bautista to pass next makes it more difficult for him to get to Lowe's and Iannone, because Vierge does have good straight line speed and seems to be maintaining a decent pace. And Bautista, who was closing at 0.6 of a second a lap on Iannone and Lowe's by the time he got to the group, has got there and now can't make any moves.
Yeah, it's just very difficult to overtake around here, even when you do have a bit of a bike advantage or a bit of a pace advantage. Vierge is more than just the top speed, though. That Honda works well around this track. They know it well, obviously, from doing a lot of testing here. And Xavi manages his tyre as well, but that's why we see him in the Superpole race able to get away with using the Q tyre when other riders can't. 0.4 of a second, covering 4 riders in this pursuit of a podium, the first of the weekend in Jerez. Budiga and Razgatlioglu away and clear. It's all about this man, Alvaro Bautista, and whether he can upset the apple cart. He goes in wider to the final turn. He's going to try for a run here back towards turn 1. Alex Lowe's almost alongside Andrea Iannone as well. Things beginning to spice up as we come towards lap 12. Bautista with a well-worked move there, took a different line completely through the final turn to build himself up for a 600-metre start-finish straight that sees him not just pull alongside 1, but 2. He's passed Xavi Vierge, he's passed Alex Lowe's, and poor old Alex Lowe's is going to end up at the back of this group, down in 6th position. Yeah, and for Alvaro, so important to be able to make those moves at any point, but to be able to do 2 for 1 is really critical for him. He's able to jump them, and he's the guy that can come through in Iannone. I'm
not sure Bautista necessarily expected that he was going to be alongside Alex Lowe's, but once he got there, he was able to force his way through. Bautista up to 4th.
When the opportunity presents itself, you've got to be able to grab it with both hands, Iannone, and for Bautista able to do that is Iannone now holds that advantage around about 3/4 of a second. Let's see what Bautista's pace is.
Iannone pulls back 0.3 of a second compared to Bautista in the first sector with those moves being made. But around the rest of the lap, you would expect Bautista now to begin to close in that margin. 0.7 of a second is his gap now to the podium places.
Yeah, and for Alvaro, obviously that podium, very important for him. Locatelli's down there in P7. And it just gives you that little bit of breathing space if you're Alvaro Bautista in their fight for 3rd in the championship.
Yeah, it's always a risk when you're starting a little bit further down the order. Anything could happen with mechanical failures or retirements tomorrow. That battle for bronze is absolutely on a knife edge. Every point that Alvaro Bautista can get, very valuable in that context. Nice move there from Bautista. And for me, it started on the entry to turn 13. He takes a wider line, he cars back, makes a long straight of it, and fires through on 2 riders. Nice move from Bautista.
Yeah, exactly what he needed to do, and he set the move up nicely. That's a move that's set up, as you said, Alex, to make the move on Vierge. But once you're alongside Lowe's, you're coming through in that as well. And Alvaro does that without costing himself too much time, and down into the low 40s on this lap.
Yeah, not significantly faster than Andrea Iannone last time around, but he did pull back 0.3 of a second in that final sector. and that's where Iannone, we saw, was struggling against Alex Lowes. If Bautista gets as close as Lowes does, there's going to be an opportunity for him either into the final turn or back into turn 1.
Back into turn 1, you'd imagine, for Alvaro, but we've seen it again from Iannone that he's able to dig himself in. He's able to give himself an opportunity just to hold on to those positions. It's not going to be easy for Iannone, but it's not going to be easy for Bautista either.
Gap's down by 0.2 of a second already. Well, 0.7. It's now half a second, and Bautista fast closing as they make their way down the back straight and into the Pedrosa hairpin. Turn 6 on this lap 13. It's Bulliger who leading Razgatlioglu 3.5 seconds. 7 seconds back as this fight for the final step on the podium. Bautista, Vierke, Lowes. Gap of 1.5 seconds to Locatelli. 2 seconds back is Gardner, with Taz McKenzie fast closing, and an opportunity for one of McKenzie's best results. And here in Jerez, looking good to close down Gardner for 8th position. But the next fight is for 3rd. Alvaro Bautista has narrowed that gap from 0.7 of a second to just 0.2 of a second as he looks to extend his run of consecutive podiums to the longest it has been in 2025. Iannone has looked vulnerable, but he's managed to hold off Alex Lowes and Xavi Vierke. Will he be able now to hold off the factory Ducati of Alvaro Bautista? The answer is no. Bautista's already alongside into turn 13. Bautista, though, can't get it stopped. Iannone comes through. Now it's a drag race, another 600-metre sprint back towards turn 1. Expo 92 on this lap 14. Bautista alongside again, but will he get it stopped? He's only halfway alongside. Iannone forces his way through to the apex of that first turn, and Alvaro Bautista is released into the podium positions on lap 14.
Yeah, deep into that last corner. But
he's wide, though, and a bit of a bobble, and suddenly not only Iannone comes through, but Xavi Vierke as well.
You can see for Bautista deep into turn 13, deep into turn 1, but able to still hold on to pick off Iannone, but then that mistake into 2, and he's got it all to do again. 2/3 race distance, and the final third's going to be entertaining again in this scrap for 3rd. Just when I thought it was settled in favour of Bautista, and he probably thought it was settled as well, he's got to do it all over again, passing Xavi Vierke, who's going to take his opportunity now to attack Andrea Iannone. Bautista moves him out of the way into Pedrosa hairpin on lap 14. Yeah, the beauty of Alvaro is it's never done, and you can always see that something can always happen when Alvaro's in a group like this, and ultimately for Alvaro, able to make the move into 6, but he needs to make sure he can make that move cleanly on Iannone. It looked almost like he had just predetermined he was going to attack Iannone into turn 13, but that's where Iannone is good, and he's been able to defend from Lowes whenever they both had tyre underneath them as well. So for Bautista, it's about that exit of the last corner.
Yeah, you want to see Bautista making the move. This is what happens, him just running in deep there and Iannone coming through. You want to see Bautista set up the move that he did on Lowes and Vierke really now in towards turn 1. They're just making their way through towards the apex of turn 13. We'll see if they end up side by side onto the start-finish straight here. Bautista a little bit further back. Iannone still has track position in 3rd place.
Yeah, and you can see a little adjustment there for Iannone on his brake adjuster there. So we're into that final third of the race. This is where you've already made your changes to your maps, you've already made your changes to your electronics. You're just trying to find something that gives you that confidence to get the bike stopped. The front end is really struggling for these riders now, because all the way through this week, tyre life has been a problem with the front, and they're all just trying to make sure that they're able to just come through to the end of it.
Bautista wants this podium, but he's also got to make sure that he doesn't have a crash, throw it all away, and give Andrea Locatelli 10 extra points in the World Championship. There's a big swing on the line here. Bautista's got to get it right when he makes his move on Iannone this time around. Lap 15 of 20. Bautista closing, goes for the big lunge. Deep on the brakes in towards turn 6, but he has got it stopped, and Bautista is through for 3rd for the 2nd time in this race 1.
Great move from Alvaro, because I thought he was in too deep into that one, but he's able to come through into 6 on Iannone, and Andrea, for his part, he's given himself a chance to fight back, but he hasn't had the pace in this group at all during the race. It's
up to Bautista to stretch away in the consecutive right-handers before that turn 13, because if Iannone's close enough into turn 13, he's just surely going to throw the bike in. That's his only hope of claiming a podium here with just over 5 laps to go.
And you can see this is down into the apex at 6, and for Bautista, it does really well to get that bike stopped, because we were rolling on board with him. You could see how much deeper he was into the corner compared to Iannone.
Lap 15 of 20, Iannone is not close enough to respond and may actually now fall prey to Xavi Vierque for 4th position as well. Bautista doing exactly what he needs to do, trying to stretch his legs and claim a comfortable 3rd position. Iannone is going to be hot on his heels for the next lap or so, but it is in the closing stages of races where Bautista generally improves his pace, and in fact, he's 0.3 of a second faster than the 2 leaders last time around making his move.
Alvaro's only 0.2 of a second off of his fastest lap of the race. For the likes of the race leader, Bulega, 38.7 is his fastest lap. Last time around, he's in the mid-40s. So it just goes to show how well Bautista is able to manage that tyre despite having to come through the group.
Yeah, Bautista would wish they were 40-lap races rather than 20, but unfortunately for him, he's 11 seconds down on the race leader, his teammate Nicolo Bulega. But Bautista doing his job here. If he comes away with 3rd position, 6 consecutive podiums, that will be the longest run of consecutive rostrum finishes he's had in 2025, and Andrea Locatelli down in 7th place, and the gap between them would open up to 15 points.
Yeah, and obviously we've got the Super Pole race tomorrow and race 2 as well, so plenty of points still on offer, but ultimately the clock ticks down quickly because Bulega and Toprak, once again in this race, even though they're separated from each other, they're very much separated from the rest of the field. They're 10 seconds ahead if you're Bulega to Bautista. It's been in and around that 0.8 of a second a lap has been the margin.
Alvaro Bautista then starting to ride with comfort in the closing stages now. Andrea Iannone could not immediately answer back, and because he can't, the opportunity surely won't be there now for him to get on the rostrum. It's a 3-way scrap for 4th position unless something untoward happens for Alvaro Bautista. Quick check on the scraps further down the order. Taz McKenzie closed on Remy Gardner at a real rate of knots, but since he's got onto his tail, he's only been able to match his pace and hasn't found a way through. So Locatelli 7th still, Gardner 8th. McKenzie right with him though in 9th position to his credit, and Michael van der Mark rounding out the top 10.
Good ride from McKenzie up there inside the top 10 on the number 95 Ducati, and he's done a solid job since he jumped onto that mid-season, having been on the MIE Honda.
As I said, on the grid, only the 2 top 10 finishes this season, 1 since moving on to the Bonovo bike, and that was at his first round with the team at the Hungarian round in the Superpole race there. Unusual circumstances, obviously, that weekend, and otherwise points regularly, but outside of the top 10 places. So this has got to go down as one of Mackenzie's best races.
Yeah, ultimately for me, the work for Mackenzie this year, when you compare it to what Scott Redding did on that bike, other than Phillip Island, it's been in and around the same, and we know how good of a superbike rider that Redding's been in the World SBK paddock. So for Mackenzie, it's been decent considering there's been so much uncertainty about that team.
Alex Lowe's losing a lot of ground on this lap 17 so far. I wonder whether he might have made a mistake in the first sector, lost 0.3 of a second there alone. He's dropped another 0.2 of a second around the rest of the lap. He's still 2.5 seconds ahead of Locatelli, so should be good for that 6th place. But Xavi Vierque, meanwhile, keeping up the pressure on Andrea Iannone.
Xavi's riding really well, and we saw that in Estoril as well, and certainly for him, I think he can be excited going on to that Yamaha package next year to see what he's able to do up against some established riders, the likes of Locatelli or Remy Gardner and a few others. It's a package that will work better over the course of the full season. But for Xavi, he's been able to put in some good rides here at the end of the year. This is the fight for 10th position. Michael van der Mark holds the place. Axel Bassani is coming back at him. Started in 13th position on the grid. And as I said earlier on, 3 top 10 finishes for Bassani in Hungary, 2 in France, in Aragon and Estoril last weekend. So Bassani looking to maintain that recent run of strong top 10 finishes. He's got Michael van der Mark to clear if he wants to get there. Meanwhile, we return our focus to Andrea Iannone versus Xavi Vierque. These two continuing on their duel. Bautista's escaped away. They've dropped off Alex Lowe's, so it is now just a head-to-head for 4th position. And where might Vierque be able to get on terms with Andrea Iannone? It's just going to come down to where he feels comfortable to try and make a move, because we've seen Iannone vulnerable to all the other riders in those fast corners at the end of the lap. It's about trying to set something up from the last corner up towards turn 1 if you're Xavi Vierque, but he is a lot faster than Iannone. It's just about being able to use that speed. Iannone is a wily fox. Yes, Andrea Iannone showed in his defence in race 1 of the Italian round early on this season that he is capable of holding track position when he gets it. Superpole performances have been a little bit up and down. Early laps in races have been a little bit up and down for Iannone, but he got off to a good start in this one. He was right with the 2 leaders in the early stages. In fact, pit top Raz Gaflioglu on the first couple of laps.
but now he's beginning to fall back into the clutches of Xavi Vierque, closing at about 1.5 tenths of a second a lap. So it's not a big difference in pace, but it might be enough for Xavi Vierque to hunt down Andrea Iannone now for 4th position. He makes his lunge into the final turn, a couple of laps from the finish, and the Honda, Xavi Vierque, moves into 4th position on what would be his best result of this 2025 campaign.
Good move from Xavi, and we'll see if Iannone is able to get close enough to try and attack him again up in towards turn 2. But Vierque, he's ridden really well in this race, stayed in that lead group, and able to give himself the opportunity to come away with a top 5 finish, and should be in 4th spot because he has been faster than Iannone. And ultimately, if he's able to just open up that little bit of a margin over Iannone, doesn't really look like Andrea is able to bridge a gap.
As Iannone just got in a little bit hot there into the final turn, he did look a little bit wider than he was certainly when he was dueling with Alvaro Bautista.
You can see here though for Xavi Vierque, he runs wide through turn 5 and Iannone comes back through, but it's going to be a faster exit for Xavi Vierque. A little bit of a head shake there. It's going to be tough to make the move into turn 6.
Penultimate lap of this race then, and Vierque showed his hand rather by making his move at turn 13 on lap 18. He might try to have another go here, but Iannone will know that move is coming.
Yeah, and for Iannone, again, like we had said earlier, just such a robust defensive performance, because it would have been easy to just think, do you know what, Vierge's come through, let's settle for 5th. Instead, he's making sure he keeps him honest, and he's able to pick his pocket through turn 5. Good riding from Iannone.
Yes, Alex Lowe's behind them, relying on Iannone and Vierque scrapping to bring himself back in. He's made 6 tenths of a second on this lap, so if it all goes wrong for the 2 ahead, there's a couple of extra places available to Alex Lowe's. 2 leaders making their way through the final turn now and on to the last lap, but the race is for 4th position. Andrea Iannone versus Xavi Vierque. Vierque's already had 1 go into the final turn. Will he have another go on the penultimate lap? They make their way back through turn number 1. And Toprak Razgatlioglu here is in 2nd place. Iannone breaking clear of Vierque, 4 tenths of a second the gap across the line. So Xavi Vierque must have made an error or lost a little bit of ground somewhere, because Iannone now has consolidated that 4th place.
Yeah, and for Vierque, it looks like he made a 2nd mistake in the middle of that lap as well. We saw the turn 5 mistake. It looks like he compounded that again, so maybe just ran in a bit hot into turn 6 or the like, and it just pushed him a little bit further behind Iannone. It's going to be almost impossible to bridge that gap.
Yes, Xavi Vierque, 5th position then, would still be good enough to match his best results of this season from race 1 in Portimao, 2 5th places in Cremona, a 5th in the Superpole race at Balaton Park for the Hungarian round. 6th last time out in race 2 of the Estoril round, as Taz Mackenzie's race-long scrap seemingly with Remy Gardner continues on the final lap, but I think Mackenzie will be happy enough to bring home a 9th place finish.
Yeah, top 10 be a really good result for Taz, and obviously there's another point on offer in 8th, but 9th is a really solid performance by him.
Well, it is Nicolo Bulliger who has had command here in Jerez. He was able to beat Toprak Razgatlioglu here twice at the 2024 Spanish round, and he looks set to start the weekend as he means to go on. He's the full length of that straight clear and now makes his way through the final turn. The 2025 Superbike World Championship goes down to its final day as Nicolo Bulliger wins race 1 in Jerez. Toprak Razgatlioglu will have to wait to score the last 3 points he needs to be crowned world champion this season. It's 2nd place for him. 3rd will go to Alvaro Bautista, his longest run of consecutive podiums this season. Andrea Iannone gets 4th position by 2nd in the end over Xavi Vierque, and that's as good as anything we've seen from Andrea Iannone since Phillip Island in February.
Yeah, for Iannone, a really good ride there to be able just to hold on to that 4th place finish. He didn't have the pace of the riders around him, but he had track position and he didn't make mistakes, whereas other riders did.
So we go again, final day of the season. Toprak Razgatlioglu's advantage is cut to 34 points, but remember, Superpole race is only worth 12, 25 in race 2, so 37 points up for grabs, and Razgatlioglu still closing, ever closing. But just the faintest glimmer of hope now for Nicolo Bulliger should misfortune befall the BMW.
Well, Bulliger's done what he's had to do, and that's push it to the final day of the season, and then we'll have to wait and see what happens in the Superpole race, and then we have to wait and see what happens in race 2 as well, potentially. And ultimately for Toprak, 20 points for 2nd. He's been stressed this weekend, and I think that you'll see that tomorrow will be a release of that stress, because ultimately with BMW 8 points behind Ducati, it's also where it's now very difficult for BMW to win that Manufacturers' Championship. They need to win both races tomorrow. So for Toprak, try and get the championship done in the Super Pole race, and then if he doesn't win that race, BMW aren't going to win that Manufacturers' Championship. Yeah,
crucial, isn't it? Unless misfortune begins to befall all the Ducatis in race 2, Razgatlioglu does need to find a big swing overnight. And of course, he was able to go toe-to-toe in the Super Pole race last season with Nicolo Bulliger and did get stronger as the weekend went on. But this is an even more formidable Nicolo Bulliger, and we've seen that right from the start of this weekend.
Yeah, Bulliger was able just to manage that race comfortably out there. And ultimately for BMW, when you look at it, Ducati first, Ducati third, Ducati fourth, it shows you the challenge that they've faced this year. Toprak has scored 608 points through the course of this season, and 600 points, and it's only been 2 other points for a BMW rider. So it's meant that ultimately Toprak's been going up against a horde of BMWs for the Manufacturers' Championship, and the BMW has that package. It has that ability to win races, but Ducati has the numbers as well.
Yes, only one other BMW on the grid, and as I said at the top of the programme, in the Manufacturers' Championship, there have been a couple of times where Bulliger's not scored and Sam Lowes has picked up the points. A scoring race for Alvaro Bautista, a scoring race for Danilo Petrucci as well. So yeah, better backup in the Manufacturers' Championship for Ducati, and that margin opens up to 8 points. Still, Toprak with 2 wins tomorrow wins it for BMW on a tie, and we could be in for another close finish. I think back to, what was it, 2019, when we had that 1 point decider at the last.
Yeah, and you can see there for Toprak, just got greeted by his crew there down in pit lane. Sean Muir giving him a hug, and they know that ultimately 23 points has been the target for this weekend. That means 3 points is the target tomorrow, and if the Manufacturers' Championship is won by BMW, it's fantastic, but they know that they need to make sure that they wrap up at least one of the championships tomorrow, and that'll be the Riders' Championship is the easiest one for that.
Toprak Razgatlioglu making his way back in. Yes, just a few points away now. Obviously 3 points available for 7th position in the Super Pole race, where the points run down to P9. So not too much work now to do for Razgatlioglu. He's got to try and steer clear of the rest of the group, though, in the early laps tomorrow. He won't have enjoyed finding himself losing places on lap 1, just as was happening regularly in Estoril, and that ultimately cost him the race 2 victory last time out on Sunday.
Yeah, and it cost him in this race as well, because by the time he had cleared Iannone, he was a second and a half behind Bulliger, and he wasn't going to make up that margin.
No, and he knew that from experience based on Estoril last time out. In the end, it's a race of safety, of caution. Razgatlioglu brings home the 20 points. That's what he needs to do. Moves closer to claiming that World Championship. And Alvaro Bautista, brilliant 3rd position from him, because it had to be combative. He's qualified a little bit further back than he did in Estoril last time out, but he's been no stranger to making his moves through this season, because he has been a poor qualifier.
Yeah, 15 points is the margin between him and Locatelli, so that will go right down to that last race. But ultimately for Bautista, 6 podiums in a row shows that form and consistency.